awake, free, and ready community. Awaken your soul, free your mind, and get ready for what's next.
History is written by the victor. History is filled with liars. If he lives, his truth becomes written and ours is lost.
Yes, it's time, my friends, to jump down another rabbit hole. This one is sure to raise a few eyebrows because I'm going to ask you to suspend that which you think you know about our history and the battles that were fought to protect it. Today we're going to explore the leveled cities. We are told the war was and is a necessary part of liberating and protecting the people. It was a necessary evil to ensure freedom from tyranny. There were noble causes and justifiable responses. We are to accept the narrative that destroyed and obliterated cities as just a casualty of war. But what if we took a look at events with a different lens? Could there have been a sleight of hand no one noticed as the fires and smoke filled the skies? What if war was the cover for a much grander agenda?
Nothing is as it seems.
Hold on, my friends. I will dive deep into that soon enough. But first, let's start with the Blitz of London. The German High Command had changed the rules of war, if there is such a thing, by deviating from the usual military and strategic targets. They also focused on civilian targets. The Blitz of London started in September of 1940, and the Luftwaffe's reign of terror continued for 256 days. The British and the Allied High Command was looking for payback. As much as the German arsenal included incendiary bombs to set London on fire, the U.S. Army developed a much more advanced version, the M69, a mix of gel and gasoline, a precursor to the napalm bomb. These were used to great effect over Berlin, Munich, Hanover, and Dresden. I'll be talking more in detail about Dresden shortly. The impact of these carpet bombing runs were horrific, creating the storms that consumed all the oxygen, suffocating tens of thousands of civilians. The cities and all its infrastructure laid in ruins. But this was happening in other theaters of war as well. Cities all over Russia were being systematically destroyed too. Other cities in Europe were hit hard, like Rotterdam, Netherlands. As well, the war with Japan was intensifying. The U.S. had already hit mainland Japan in the Doodle raid in April of 1942, but U.S. aircraft technology had advanced so rapidly that their latest heavy bomber was a generation ahead of anything before it. In 1945, the B-29 Superfortress was capable of carrying 20,000 pounds of payload, 3 times that of its predecessor. In Operation Meeting House, 334 B-29s. I had to reread that when I was doing the research on this. Yeah, 334 B-29s dropped 2,000 tons of incendiary bombs on Tokyo, unleashing a firestorm that rose to over 1,800 degrees Fahrenheit and wiped out 15 square miles of Tokyo, killing a confirmed dead of 105,400 civilians. This happened in major cities all across Japan, something most know very little of. Is this not overkill? I mean, why was it now standard practice to drop an ungodly amount of hellfire onto a city. 334 of the world's largest planes all at once dropping bombs on a city. Now, you can easily make a point of bombing key areas and targets that deem to be a threat, but why the need to absolutely wipe a city off the map? What purpose would it serve to have libraries, ancient information, architecture completely removed? Sure, I get it. Yeah, it demoralizes the population, mission accomplished. But something much bigger was happening in planning rooms around the world on both sides of the war. What if humanity was waking up to a reality that could not be explained? What if there were holes in the story of the old world that could not be explained?
Wow. Wow.
Wow. What would happen to the controllers if an ever-advancing society kept asking questions that could not be answered with the narrative they've been given? My friends, what if World War II was not about liberation, democracy, and freedom, but more about control, experimentation, deception, and creating a new narrative that fit with a much darker agenda that is still going on today?
You want answers?
I think I'm entitled.
You want answers?
I want the truth!
You can't handle the truth!
What if the old world was a lot more advanced and refined than what we've been told? What if the technology of the old world was using cathedrals, city engines, and free energy from the ether? What if the destruction of the last remnants of Tartarian technology was the objective of flattening these cities? Yes, Tartaria. Please look that up if this is a new word to you. As I mentioned before, I want to come back to Dresden. This is Dresden, Germany, before the war. It was known as the Baroque city for its fine architecture, stately buildings, art, culture, and grand ornate structures of the old world. Dresden was a city of ancient Tartaria with numerous cathedrals, spires, and antiquitech throughout. London was very much the same, with its glorious Tartarian architecture. Countless spires, domes, and underground networks of the old world, completely destroyed. Yes, they dropped 2,000 tons of bombs on Tokyo, but they dropped over 4,000 tons on Dresden. That's right, 4,000 tons of bombs over a 3-day period. Why would you need to do that when the first night damaged much of the city? Now keep in mind, Dresden has no military significance. It had no factories or significant industry. It didn't even have anti-aircraft batteries to protect itself. Yet they pounded one of the most beautiful cities in the world into the Stone Age. What was the objective other than the need to erase history you can't explain? Thankfully, the cities rose from the ashes and were rebuilt, with much of the old world masterpieces returning. However, the technology they once held and the secrets within are forever lost. Sure, they are beautiful, and the artisans did a great job to replicate their grandeur. But sadly, they are dressed to look pretty. But their glorious history and potential is wasted. They are a shadow of their former selves. But what about Tokyo and other Japanese cities? They didn't have Tartarian architecture and technology from the old world. Weren't their houses built of bamboo, light wood, and paper walls? Isn't that why they burn so fast? Yes, a lot of the residential areas were built that way. But Japan is no different than other parts of the world. The Tartarian Empire and its influence was very much in Japan. In fact, it was quite prolific. Look at the beauty. Look at the grandeur. Now this was in Manila, in the Philippines, and it too was not spared from the wrath of the heavy air bombardment. Again, the great buildings completely leveled. I wish I could say World War II is where the Luciferian agenda stopped their death from above campaigns. Now fast forward to Desert Storm and the war in Iraq, and you can see a very obvious and systematic agenda to destroy the ancient world. What gifts and surprises do you think would be found in the most ancient cities and ruins of the world? The Syrian War saw Damascus, the oldest city in the world, get destroyed, as did many other cities in Syria. Complete and utter destruction. This was not about freedom, liberty, and protecting a political ideology. This is about abject destruction and the erasing of the past. Prior to the world wars, there were other levels of destruction. Towards the end of the 19th century, many cities around the world suffered great and cataclysmic fires. Fires that decimated most of the cities and destroyed most of the evidence of the old world that were present at the time. Chicago, Seattle, San Francisco after the earthquake, London, many cities around the world. We could go back to 48 BC and the burning of the Great Library of Alexandria in Egypt. Somewhere between 40,000 and 400,000 scrolls, perhaps equivalent to roughly 100,000 books, were destroyed. Can you imagine the secrets of the old world in which they held? My friends, the old world was not some bastion of ignorance and squalor and filled with simpletons just trying to exist. No, the old world is not what we've been told it is. Our history has been hijacked to perpetuate a timeline that simply does not mesh with the narrative. Much of this architecture cannot be made today. It had a much different purpose than what we've been told, and its place here cannot exist. If it does, there shall be no record of its use, purpose, and operation. It shall forever be lost to the hands of time. The controllers know that it only takes a generation to forget, so they are playing the long game. It worked. Most of humanity has indeed forgotten. What they did not count on is the awakening of humanity. What they did not see is how the dots are being connected by millions of awakened souls every day. These souls see the beauty, the majesty in the architecture. They see the new truths of our realm. With it comes a deep fascination of what really happened. A reset has happened, but not as far back as you might think. If you're like me, there becomes a sense of wonder, awe, and curiosity, and a need to know. For some reason, the ghosts of Tartaria speak to them. It is like a call from a distant memory from a gilded age of humanity. And we need to seek the truth. We do this with love, we do this with peace in our hearts, but we do this with power and conviction and the will to persevere. My friend, I'm honored you joined me here today. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe. As well, if you feel compelled, I invite you to support the channel on our Patreon page. You'll get a public shout out on a future video. Have the best day, and remember, you are here to awaken your soul. free your mind, and get ready for what's next. Until next time, much love, my friends.
Nothing is as it seems.